While walking on the rocky shore of Kodiak Island in Alaska, an old fisherman named Peter Langston spotted something strange half buried in the gravel. At first, he thought it was just driftwood or a metal pipe. But as he got closer, his heart skipped a beat. It was a giant, rusted iron chain, thicker than his arm, and it stretched far into the ocean. Peter had been fishing in these waters for over 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The chain looked ancient, like it hadn't been touched for decades. Some of its links were buried deep under the stones, and the rest disappeared silently into the waves, as if hiding a secret beneath the sea. He tried pulling it, but it didn't budge. It was as if something heavy, maybe something huge, was holding it down in the ocean's depths. He felt a chill run down his spine. Without wasting time, he took a few pictures and reported the discovery to the local Coast Guard office. 3 days later, a special team arrived. Not just the Coast Guard, but also Navy divers and a military historian. No one said much, but their faces grew serious when they saw the size of the chain. The lead diver, Officer Rachel Torres, looked at Peter and said quietly, "We need to find out where this leads." The team suited up and entered the freezing water, following the chain deeper and deeper. Cameras were attached to their helmets, and a screen on the boat showed live footage of what they saw. At around 30 feet deep, the chain was still going. At 50 feet, it hadn't moved an inch. By 80 feet, the divers stopped suddenly. Rachel's voice crackled through the radio, "We've found something." Everyone on the surface leaned in. The water was dark, but slowly, shapes began to appear. A massive steel object lay in the sand, covered in coral and rust. As they cleared it with their hands, more of it became visible. It was a ship. No, not just any ship. It was a warship, broken in half but still standing like a ghost under the sea. The chain was bolted directly to the anchor of the vessel. Inside the ship's rotting hull, the divers shined their lights into the storage room. What they saw made them freeze. "Everyone, stop moving." Rachel's voice was tight. The camera zoomed in. Lying inside the ship were rows of artillery shells, rusted sea mines, and what looked like hand grenades. Some of them were half buried in mud, others stacked like they had been placed there yesterday. The worst part? Some of the explosives still had their pins intact. Back on the boat, the faces of the experts watching turned pale. No one spoke for a moment. Then the historian, a man named Dr. Wallace Green, stepped forward and whispered, "I think I know what this is." Dr. Wallace pulled out an old black and white photo from his folder. It showed a ship from World War II, the USS Redwater, a warship that had disappeared during a secret mission in 1943. It had never been found. It was believed to have sunk somewhere in the Pacific, but its exact location had been lost due to a storm and wartime confusion. "If this is the Redwater, then we just found a lost piece of military history," Dr. Green said. But also, a ticking time bomb. Everyone on the deck fell silent again. The discovery was incredible, but dangerous. No one knew how stable those old weapons were. One wrong move, and the entire area could explode. Within hours, more ships arrived. An explosive disposal unit was flown in from Anchorage. No one was allowed near the water. The beach was cleared. Helicopters circled above. The chain had led them to a war grave, one still filled with deadly weapons. Divers worked carefully for days, neutralizing what they could. Some of the explosives were too unstable to move. Instead, they were buried in place and sealed with concrete. Others were removed and taken to a secure location to be destroyed. The entire island was on alert. Local fishermen were warned to stay away. News channels were not informed, the government wanted to keep the operation quiet. Peter watched all of this from a distance. He had only wanted to fish for salmon that morning. Instead, he had uncovered a mystery the ocean had kept hidden for over 80 years. One of the divers reported something odd deep in the ship's lower levels. Past the weapons storage, beyond a collapsed stairwell, there was a steel door, still locked shut. Unlike the rest of the ship, this door wasn't rusted through. It looked newer, almost untouched by time or saltwater. They shined lights around it, searching for clues. There were no labels, no markings. Just thick bolts sealing it shut. Rachel radioed back to the surface, "We found a sealed room. Looks like no one has opened it since the war." But they couldn't risk cutting it open, not with so many unstable explosives nearby. The disposal team ordered them to leave it untouched. "That room will have to wait," one expert said. "Whatever's inside, it's not worth triggering the whole wreck." The divers marked the location and returned to the surface. The mystery of the locked room was added to the growing list of unanswered questions. Later that evening, while reviewing the helmet footage, Dr. Green paused the video at the door. He stared at the frame for a long time. "I've seen something like this before," he murmured. But when Peter asked him what it could be, the historian just shook his head and said, "Let's hope we never find out." That night, Peter couldn't sleep. He kept picturing the chain, the ship, and that door, sealed tight at the bottom of the ocean like a secret too dangerous to open. And though the weapons had been neutralized and the area declared safe, something about it all felt unfinished. In the following days, the wreck site was officially closed off. Maps were updated to show a restricted military zone around that part of Kodiak Island. Signs were posted along the shoreline warning boats and visitors to stay away. The government wanted to make sure no curious diver or fisherman got too close. Only a few people truly knew what had been discovered, and even fewer understood the risk that still remained below. The sealed door became the center of quiet discussions among the experts. Some believed it might contain top-secret documents from World War II. Others feared it was hiding experimental weapons, or something worse. Peter was never told what the final decision was about the room. The military packed up quietly and left, promising that specialists would return later for further investigation. But months passed, and no one came back. One morning, Peter received a letter, no sender name, no return address. Inside was a single photo. It showed the sealed door, taken from the diver's camera, but this time the frame had a small red circle drawn near the bottom corner. Peter squinted. At first, he didn't notice anything. But then he saw it, a faint symbol scratched into the metal, just barely visible under the grime. It wasn't any flag or number. It looked like a logo, or maybe a warning sign. He showed it to a local historian, who immediately grew nervous. "This mark. I've seen it once, in a file about secret U.S. experiments during the war. That door might not just be protecting weapons, it could be hiding something the world forgot on purpose." Peter felt the weight of what he had uncovered. The chain had led to something far bigger than an old warship. And now, even though it was buried deep in the sea, it had started whispering its secrets again. Peter tried to forget. He stopped going near the coast. Every time he looked at the ocean, all he could think of was that massive chain, silent, rusted, and reaching into something no one truly understood. But the image of that strange door and the mysterious symbol haunted him. Sometimes at night, he would hear strange noises outside his cabin, the sound of helicopters in the distance, boats without lights passing in the dark, and once, a van parked near the shore that vanished by sunrise. No one ever knocked on his door. But he knew, someone was still watching that place. Rumors slowly started spreading in nearby fishing towns. People said the fish were avoiding the waters near the island. Some locals claimed to see divers at night, surfacing and disappearing without a word. A few believed a government experiment had gone wrong, and the ship wasn't just a wreck, it was a warning left untouched for a reason. Peter never told anyone about the letter or the photo. He kept them hidden under a floorboard in his cabin. He felt it wasn't his secret to share, or maybe, he was afraid of what might happen if he did. Years passed, and no official news ever came out about the wreck. It vanished from all records, erased from memory. But the chain? It's still there. If you ever walk the northern shore of Kodiak Island during low tide, you might see the top of it, thick, rusted, unmoved, like it's still guarding something. And if you're quiet enough, and you really listen, some say you can hear a soft hum from under the sea, as if the ship is still alive, still waiting, and still locked from the inside. No one ever explained how such a massive warship remained hidden for nearly a century. And no one ever opened that sealed door. Maybe, that was never supposed to happen. Maybe the ocean kept it hidden for a reason. And maybe Peter was never meant to find that chain at all.